Alright, so we're back once again, and today, as you can probably see, we're going to be doing a guide on the Jutland. Now this is going to be the second guide of the Royal Navy DD line that I'm doing. My initial guide for the lightening is already released, and once I get the daring and go through it for quite a while, I'll release a guide on the daring too. But first things first, let's actually get into the Jutland, and we're going to start with the modules, or the upgrades as some people like to call them. I like to call them modules. Premium everything, you can't change that. But in terms of upgrades, main armaments mod 1, self-explanatory, so much survivability here, there's no reason not to take it over anything else effectively. Now here you can go damage control system or engine room protection. I go engine room protection because I like minimizing the chances of my rudder getting knocked out or my engine getting knocked out. Especially when you're knife fighting another DD one-on-one, it's really useful and really effective. And risk of catching fire, risk of flooding. I mean, if you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be flooding, you're probably going to be taking 90% of your HP from a torpedo, so no point in that. And fires are pretty much instantly damage count in DDs anyways, because you know the percentage damage is so huge on this class of ship, which again makes this not all that useful. Aiming systems, pretty bog standard. It's so useful. You take it on pretty much every ship with guns, that is. Rudder shift is again really useful because fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time are pretty much useless on DDs. Concealment, again, that's a given. Concealment is probably one of the strongest aspects of this ship completely, so buffing that is insane. And for the final one, you want to take main battery modification 3. Again, there's a bit of a debate here between torpedo tubes. Well, there's not really, because you're not really a torpedo. Your torpedoes have about 10km range, so it's not all that useful. Gunfire control system. Again, if you have BFT, which you're probably going to take on this ship, main at fire range of 16% isn't going to be all that huge. You're going to get that from BFT anyway, so don't waste that. And secondaries, no. Just no. But yeah, main battery modification 3. Modification 3, holy shit. Reload time by 12%, which is huge. Main battery traverse speed increased by 13%, which isn't all that huge. I mean, if you run RPF in this ship, and you get, obviously, the increased rudder shift, you can just know where the enemy DD is coming for a knife fight, swing your ship around, get the guns on them, you're good to go. And the 12% reduction is going to be huge in any 1v1. So, with the upgrades done, let's get into the captain skills. These are just the main important things before you actually play the ship that you need to be covered on. Now, there's a little bit of a debate here between priority target and preventive maintenance. As you'll probably notice in this build, I've gone very risk averse in terms of modules getting incapacitated, engines getting knocked out, rudder shifts getting knocked out, and stuff like that. So, again, if you don't like that playstyle of being overly protective, I would probably recommend going priority target. I think priority target has a lot more use cases, especially 1v1ing or like predicting torpedoes, stuff like that. It's really useful. But outside of that, you can go either one of these. Next up, you can go last stand or jack of all or adrenaline rush. I'd probably recommend going last stand. Completely eliminates the risk of, being completely isolated or a sitting duck effectively in the game. So I'd probably go last stand first, then not straight after adrenaline rush, but just last stand. For tier 3, survivability expert, that's a given on every DD. The percentage increase in HP is just huge. And then you go concealment expert for your 10-point captain. Again, concealment's one of the strengths of this ship. You need it above pretty much everything else. And then next, you want to go adrenaline rush because, again, knife fighting, increase reload, boom, beautiful. And then you want to go BFT. That gives you your range increase, which makes you a very, very effective gunboat with that 10% increase. And again, the AA is nice, but again, it's not going to be the strength. You're not a Holland, so it's not a big focus for this ship in particular. And of course, RPF, or radio location, which is what's going to enable you to actually make very significant decisions within the game, so it's a very high priority skill also. So I think that covers all the captain skills. In terms of exterior, take whatever skin you want. It doesn't really matter, as long as you get that concealment buff of 5%. For flags, you take fire increase, obviously, demolition. You want to eliminate that as much as possible. You can take the reload flag, and because Royal Navy DDs are relatively slow, I think this one, the Jutland gets up to about 34 knots. Taking this flag might not actually be all that bad of an idea. I don't usually take it, but again, it's not a terrible idea. It does have a heal too, but again, 20% of not very much is still not very much. So again, I'd probably just save these flags for something like a Thunder, Conqueror ship that's going to be more useful on. Yeah. Ironically enough, all other Royal Navy ships, this flag would be really useful on. So, but I think that's pretty much everything. So with that, now you know how to build a ship. Let's go into game. Alright, so we're in game now, and as you can probably see, I don't really remember playing this game all that much. But the first thing you obviously want to do when you play any DD is hit tab and check, is there any radar ships in the game. Now, for some reason the replay's bugged here, and I can't actually click or interact with the replay at all, so we're just going to have to watch from a first person perspective and, you know, see what happens. We have got RPF, and as you can probably see, it's not pushing exactly on the Musashi, so like immediately gives me information to the fact that there's something else either close to the cap or in the cap or approaching the cap, which is really important. As you see, I'm making a dive for this island, so I always have an escape route. So if I get unexpectedly, you know, radared by, say, that Alaska right there that's popping up, then I can just turn to the left, hide behind that island, and make my escape. And I think this is a really underrated part of playing DDs. And it's something that's not even covered by Royal Navy Smoke, is that you always have to have a complete escape plan. So many times I see DDs rushing into caps, or even just reversing into caps, hoping they can get away, with no real plan if they, you know, randomly get radared by a ship that's in the game. Say that Alaska was actually, you know, not here, but he was here, and he never was spotted, and I get radared, and I'm, like, say, right here, and I just push into the cap. I'm pretty much at least going to take half my HP, if not more, if not die. So again, thinking about possibilities is probably 90% of this game, and being prepared for those possibilities is the extra 10%. But that being said, someone is occupying this cap. It's not the Siegfried, it's not the Musashi, and I have a roundabout location of where he is located. Because the way RPF works, if you're unfamiliar, is it tells you the direction of the closest ship to you at any given point in the game. So I can tell that pretty much the enemy DD is right in front of that island, right here, effectively. Now obviously he's never been spotted, but that's just one of the benefits of RPF, which really shouldn't be underrated. Now this Siegfried's probably, you know, I'm not really sure what he's doing. He's just pushing in a bit like a clown. But you know, you're going to experience that in every game anyways, so it doesn't make all that much difference. Now I make a mistake here of not using Hydro, because if you look at the little located sign up here, he knows where I am too. So it makes sense that I'd be a target as well as him being a target also. That being said though, I'm just waiting for the next event to happen at this point. There's no need to rush anything in this game. You have 16 minutes, or 17 or 18 minutes effectively at the start of the game. There's no need to push and rush anything. Just be aware of your surroundings, what possibly could happen, and just be prepared for it. So we do decide to push the Z-46. He's pretty much exactly where we thought he'd be. And he immediately pops smoke and leaves the cap. Now this is a mistake from me. I had no reason to pop smoke here. If you're trying to 1v1 an enemy DD and he pops smoke, that's perfect for you. You just turn out, you let him smoke up, and he wastes his smoke, well, you basically go undetected. It's the best of both worlds. and it's a massive, massive win for you. Well, the reason I pushed there was because the Siegfried was basically behind this island right here, the Musashi was pulling out, and the Alaska probably wouldn't have had enough time to react even if I was spotted. That's the only reason I decided to push there. I do see a Z46, pretty speculative torps. Again, with a hydro active in my smoke, there's never really a risk of these actually damaging me. So, and there's the Alaska radar. But the important thing to notice here is that I'm pointed outwards. I have my escape plan. I just nab the cap just before I leave, and pretty much accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish at this point in the game. We've got the cap, we've got the, health advantage on the Z46 in this flank, and there's Siegfrieds in a really compromised position. And when you tag on to the fact that the Alaska just wasted a radar, it's pretty much the perfect position for our team. Now at this point, sometimes I feel very kind of conflicted and very lost. You don't really know what to do. You got the cap, you did your job. The DD's job is basically to spot cap and then damage. So I've done 2 of those things. So now I am looking for damage, but I don't see a very easy way to get it, especially not with the Z46 still up and him still being a threat. Knowing that the Alaska's radar is still down for another little bit, we decide to push in a little bit more. And as you see, A cap's contested once again, and with my detection range, I get spotted pretty soon after entering the cap. And once again, we're in a 1v1 with the Z46. Now this one is a little bit more risky, especially with the Musashi pointing straight at me, and the Alaska, but the Alaska is a bit more longer range, and with the maneuverability of this ship, especially with the upgrades, it's not all that much of a threat. Now let me talk a little bit about Royal Navy AP, especially on its DDs. If you see at the start of this engagement, that Z46 was basically rushing full broadside in parallel with me, and I'm shooting AP at it. That's because Royal Navy AP is exceptionally good against our other DDs, especially, only really when they're showing full broadside. Well, not even full broadside, but broadside. When they're more angled, you're probably better off switching to HE. It's going to be a lot more effective, and you should probably have a much higher chance of setting fires. Well, obviously a much higher chance of setting fires, but at the same time you have a much higher chance of getting incapacitations. So again, if you're playing Royal Navy DDs, if the enemy DD is showing broadside, or any ship really showing broadside, it's always AP. It's kind of the same as a battleship. If the enemy is angled, you're shooting HE, broadside, AP, because the AP is just so effective, and it doesn't overpen really in a way that other DDs would. So keep that in mind. We are being hydroed at the minute, so we can't really push gung ho, but as the Siegfried does go down, we're free to push in, and at this point we're in a commanding position. If you look at the scorecard, we're up basically by 3 ships, and the game's almost decided. They do have 2 caps, but again we have the ship advantage, even though they are being a little bit more passive than usual, especially our Musashi and our Iowa and our Drake. But passive is not always all that bad. I'd rather be passive than win than be aggressive and defeat. Now the Kirikaze did pop up there a little bit, and I did ping him, but I'm not too worried about them, mostly due to the fact that, okay, the Z46 could be, very close to me, and the Kirikaze could join that fight, but I have the Drake and the Iowa steaming straight at it, so it's not, again, all that major of a threat. At this point now, we've got the cap. We're pretty much spotting everything on our side of the map, so we're going to try and go for a little bit of damage. Yeah, we've got the 13k already, so we can't be all that worried. And at this point we're going to turn in because you don't really want... Well, I might actually waste a smoke here going for the Musashi, but I don't think it's worth it because if an enemy BB, especially in the Jutland, is around 9 kilometers out, or maybe 10 kilometers out, and is turning out, there's no point smoking up there because by the time you get smoked up and maybe fire 2 or 3 salvos, it's going to be at the tip of your range. Now with BFT, obviously that's going to make a big difference, but it's still going to be held true effectively. At around 10 or 11 kilometers, there's no point stopping. That's another point too. Generally, DDs aren't all that great at dealing with BBs that are rushing head in, especially at that 7 to 9 kilometer range. But Royal Navy DDs are exceptionally good at dealing with those situations, and because of one thing, those single file torpedoes. How do I put this? And this doesn't apply to Kriegsmarine BBs because, well, they have Hydra. But generally, in DDs, you want to hold your torpedoes as late as possible, especially if you're getting charged by a ship. And this is probably more so important in Royal Navy cruisers or in Royal Navy DDs than any other ship class. Because you can basically one-shot any ship in the game if it's rushing you, which is something you can't really do with the other DDs, especially if they're full HP or something. It's just not possible. But in Royal Navy DDs and Royal Navy cruisers to an extent, because they too have the single file torps, although they have a much higher risk of being detonated, as I've experienced in the Minotaur many times. But it's definitely one of the strongest aspects of the ship too. And one thing is that these kind of DDs are very hard to budge from a position. Like once they get control of something, they're not really going to give it up all that easily. But right now, we're just trying to farm the Z46 and finally end this 1v1 and end them, which I think we finally do. But again, this isn't going to be a massive damage game. It's only going to be about, what, 23, 24k damage? Not all that massive, but we did what we needed to do to win the game. And if you want to win games, then this is what you need to do. If you want to get high damage numbers, then you probably need to go on a flank or something and go where all the enemy BBs are and just farm. But as I'm only interested in winning, that's what we do here. So, until next time, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.